Week 8, Overcoming Fear and Limiting Beliefs. Welcome back to the Barbara Schnarr podcast, and welcome to Week 8 of our happiness journey. I'm Barbara Schnarr, and I'm glad you're here. Every week we come together to grow and glow, learning to live more fully, more consciously as we glow from the inside out. This is Week 8 of 12 of the Barbara Schnarr podcast happiness series. If you're following along in my 12-week happiness book, that's fantastic. If you don't have the book, that's absolutely fine, but you will want something to write with and to write on. If you'd like to get the book, just go to the About section of the Barbara Schnarr podcast where you found this episode, and there will be a link to my 12 Happiness Coach Sessions for Coaches and Individuals book on Amazon. Or you just go to Amazon and search for Schnarr Coach. That's SCHNARR Coach. Be sure to check out the BarbaraSchnarrPodcast.com. You can find the daily motivations, latest podcast episodes, and links to all the books. I like it. Be sure to follow me on all the socials too. Let's build up my numbers. Over the past several weeks, you've been building awareness, strengthening your mindset, and creating more space for joy and connection in your life. This week, we're going to look at something that can interfere with all that progress if it goes unchecked: fear and the limiting beliefs that come with it. These are the internal barriers that shape how you see yourself and what you believe is possible. They influence the risks you take, the opportunities you pursue, and even the way you interpret your experiences. The challenging part is that they often operate in the background without being questioned. Fear itself isn't the problem. It's a natural response designed to protect you. But when fear is tied to self-doubt, past experiences, or assumptions about things that might happen, it can become restrictive. It can keep you in familiar patterns, even when those patterns no longer serve you. Limiting beliefs work in a similar way. They are thoughts that you have been repeated enough times that they begin to feel like facts. You might recognize them as statements such as, "I'm not good enough," or "I don't deserve this," or "this won't work for me." Over time, these beliefs can shape your decisions and reduce your willingness to try new things. This week begins with awareness. Pay attention to the thoughts that come up when you consider doing something outside your usual routine. Notice what your mind says when you think about taking a risk or making a change or pursuing something important to you. Then write these thoughts down. Then take a moment to examine them more closely. Ask yourself where the belief came from. It may be tied to a past experience or something someone once said, or a conclusion you formed at a specific point in your life. Once you identify the source, ask whether that belief is based on current evidence or on an assumption that hasn't been updated. This step is important because many limiting beliefs remain in place simply because they've never been questioned. Once you've identified a belief, the next step is to challenge it. Fear-based thinking often exaggerates potential negative outcomes while overlooking your ability to cope with them. To bring more balance to your thinking, ask yourself a few structured questions. What is the worst-case scenario? What is the best-case scenario? And what is the most realistic outcome? This helps you move away from extremes and toward a more accurate perspective. You could also look at the evidence. If a belief tells you you will always fail or that you're not capable, take time to review your past experiences. Most people can find examples of progress, success, or resilience when they look more carefully. This doesn't invalidate challenges you've had, but it does create a more complete picture. Another helpful approach is to consider how you would respond to someone else in the same situation. If a friend expressed the same fear or belief, you would likely offer a more balanced and encouraging perspective. This is the same tone you're working to develop with yourself. Once you've begun to question these beliefs, it's important to connect this work to action. Fear tends to keep you in your comfort zone. It encourages you to stay with what's familiar, and even if that limits your own growth. In contrast, Meaningful progress usually requires some level of discomfort. This week, choose one area where fear has been holding you back and take a small, specific step forward. The action should be manageable and not overwhelming. It could be something like expressing your opinion in a situation where you would normally stay quiet, or maybe trying a new activity or initiating a conversation you've been avoiding. The purpose of this step is not to eliminate fear before acting. It's to act while being aware of it. Each time you do this, you begin to change your relationship with fear. It becomes something you can move through rather than something that stops you. To support this process, you can also use visualization. Spend a few minutes each day imagining yourself successfully handling a situation that currently feels challenging. Picture the steps you would like to take, how you would respond, and how you would feel afterwards. This helps your mind become more familiar with a positive outcome and reduces the intensity of uncertainty. Affirmations can also be useful when they're realistic and aligned with your goals. So choose statements that reinforce your ability to learn, adapt, and handle challenges. For example, I am capable of figuring this out, or I can take this one step at a time. Repeating these regularly can help shift your internal dialogue in a more supportive direction. Another key part of this week is rethinking your relationship with failure. Many limiting beliefs are reinforced by past experiences that did not go as planned. However, when you look at those experiences more closely, they often contain important lessons. They may have helped you develop skills or gain insight or become more resilient. Take time this week to reflect on one experience you previously viewed as a failure. Identify what you learned from it and how it contributed to your growth. This helps shift the meaning of the experience and reduces the fear associated with similar situations in the future. You may also find it helpful to involve someone else in this process. Share a goal or a fear with a trusted person, and that can provide a perspective and encouragement. Sometimes an outside viewpoint can help you see your own strengths or possibilities that are hard to recognize on your own. As you move through this week, focus on steady, consistent effort rather than large changes. Notice the beliefs that come up and write them down. Question whether they are based on fact or fiction. Challenge fear-based thoughts with a more balanced perspective. Take one small step outside your comfort zone. Use visualization to support your confidence. Repeat affirmations that reinforce your ability to grow. Reflect on past experiences as opportunities for learning, and seek support when it feels helpful. And at the end of the week, take time to reflect on your progress. What beliefs did you begin to question? What fears did you face, even in the small ways? And what actions did you take that you might have avoided before? These shifts might feel subtle, but they are significant because when you begin to question limiting beliefs and take action despite fear, you expand what feels possible. Next week, we'll build on this by exploring how to align your life with your values so your choices feel more intentional and meaningful. See you next week.